That's great for our area.
As a businessman, if I don't really like the seniority system, I'm not an attorney, but that's the option. Either on the Judiciary Committee or you on the Finance. As a businessman, then I should be, when I went to Columbia, if you sort out where my best capabilities were and are, they would be in the business end of it, and that's the state budget that I have 8 years experience from carrying over from the House side that deals with the same state budget. So I look forward to going over to the Senate Finance Committee. I look forward to getting there and work with Senator Hugh Leatherman, the chairman, and other people. Many of them are great friends of mine.
Right, sure.
And we have to work through them now, but I look forward to being around the table with them.
Oh, yeah.
And snuggling up and say, fellas, we got a job to do.
Right.
Let's do it fairly, let's do it honestly, and let's move on
Yeah.
and cut that pie.
Those are great words. You know, we think about, obviously, there's so much that has to happen there in Columbia to make an impact on the entire state. What are some of the other big issues that are facing folks, our viewers right now today?
Greg, one of the most difficult crises that this area, the coastal area, has faced in the last decade is the insurance crisis. In August of 2006, we sponsored an insurance forum in Myrtle Beach for the convenience of everyone along the Grand Strand. And we had almost 1,200 people in attendance at that meeting. And from that meeting with Eleanor Kitzman, the insurance director at the time, she really got an earful. Members of the delegation all were there. They got an earful. We had asked the chairman of the Senate Banking and Insurance Committee, who has to deal with insurance matters, to come from Greenville. He drove from Greenville down that afternoon.
Wow.
After the meeting, he drove back to Greenville. That showed the kind of interest we had told him. That the problem, how deep the problem was that we had advised him of. He came down to hear from those folks, as we did. We had members of the House Labor, Commerce, and Industry Committee that also deals with those insurance matters on the House side. We had all the key people around the table that needed to hear from the consumer. Last year, we passed a major reform bill on insurance. We tried to make it a bill driven as much as we could by the competitive marketplace. And there's a couple of things that we failed to get into that piece of legislation I would like to see. One of them is elect an insurance commissioner. If we're really going to ever have a consumer advocate in the insurance commissioner's office, then the people, in my opinion, should vote for that commissioner. North Carolina and Florida, that have had a whole lot more hurricanes than we've had, have cheaper insurance rates. And one thing that they have, we don't have, they have an elected insurance commissioner. Another thing that we didn't get in that bill that we need to go back and revisit is look at not allowing insurance companies to cherry pick. That is to take coverage that offers the least amount of risk. Allstate, for instance, at one swoosh, canceled 12,000 policies.
12,000?
In 2006. State Farm and other companies were canceling out. We did get the wind pool line moved in Horry County, which helped some. The progress that we made on that insurance legislation has been substantial, but we still have work to do. In addition, unless we allow insurance companies to charge us along the coastal area for losses in New Orleans through Katrina, Florida hurricanes, North Carolina, we need to develop an catastrophic insurance model that fits South Carolina, rather than allow these companies to come in and then charge what they like, because they have a perception model. In my judgment, that model should be developed by the insurance commissioner, bring in the best professionals we can assemble.
I love it.
On behalf of the consumer. His office should also be around that table as that catastrophic model is developed. We should also involve the insurance companies around the table, bring in their professionals in that arena. When the model is completed, then it will have a great deal of credibility. All will have confidence in it that it fits South Carolina, and our rates then can be keyed off of that catastrophic insurance model. And we'll be assured that we will not be paying for losses in other states in other areas.
Well, you are very knowledgeable on this subject, Senator Elliott. I mean, I'm amazed that because it has a dramatic impact on all of us in this area, but it truly impacts the rest of the state when you talk about the 11% of the state budget coming out of Horry County alone.
Well, not only that, in this business, you have to, track a lot of fields, a lot of numbers, and a lot of activities. Let me return just briefly to the insurance question. Part of the bill that we passed that I failed to mention was it gives you as a homeowner the opportunity to retrofit your home, and you get tax credits for the improvements you made for that home. Mm-hmm. So it gives you a good opportunity to have your cake and eat it too. You can spend your dollars and get tax credits for it. In addition, the bill also allows you to create a savings pool with tax credits to pay for any deductible that may be attached to your policy. So we've looked at the crisis we were in, and at this point, we've done the very best job legislative-wise that we can do. And I give all of the Horry delegates and Senator McConnell out of Charleston, Senator Thomas out of Greenville, Chairman of the Bankers and Insurance Committee, and the House LCI Committee for all their efforts to sort of package this thing and do the very best job we could do.
We've got about 5 more minutes, Dick. When we think about education, that's a big on your list, and I know obviously talking to one of your children, education is very high on her daddy's mind, and that's been a big issue that impacts a lot of folks, particularly in our area and in our viewing area. As you know, we talked about Senator Leatherman a little bit ago and the impact Francis Marion and Florence Arlington Tech have made on the area, but down here, surely Coastal Carolina University and Horry Georgetown Tech, Webster, and so many others are really making an impact.
Education is a primary concern of mine. It should be a primary concern of all of those that are involved in creating a better world and a better future for our children. Mm-hmm. Last year, education, health care received some of the major emphasis on the new state dollars that we had and increases in budget. We also funded the EFA formula, which is state's contribution to counties, at the figure of $2,376 per student. That's the highest level it's ever been in South Carolina, which recognizes we put education first. In higher education, we put in $77 million additional dollars to help parents with students in college to keep the tuition from going even higher than it is today. We've also tried to do something for school buses. We put in $30 million to purchase new school buses on a 14-year rotating basis. Mm-hmm. We had to put in $10 million additional new dollars to buy gas because the gasoline prices have gone out of sight, and that's another long story that gets deep in my craw.
That it is for a guy who drives 3 hours to work. Yeah.
Well, for the general public, we feel like that with very little competition out there, maybe a little price gouging going on here and there.
Right. No touch
and
that.
particularly when you see ExxonMobil having the highest level of profits in the history of any country, company in the history of this nation or world for that matter.
Yeah.
So we have reason to believe that maybe something's amiss out there that we can't control. But education, health care, we pumped in $74 million in new health care. And what that means is the federal government matches our Medicaid dollars 3 for 1. So we put in, for quick computation arithmetic, round figure 70. Mm-hmm. Multiply that by 4, you got $280 million in new funds for health care in South Carolina, which is a critical need in a lot of families. Unfortunately, in this country, 9 million babies go to bed every night with no insurance coverage. Some 49 million Americans have no insurance coverage. And we, at some point in time, in some way, we have that problem we must address. It's a federal problem.
Yeah.
We'll do what we can at the state, providing funds for those that don't have any coverage. But it's a real crisis, not only here, but across the nation.
There's so many federal issues that impact on a statewide level. You know, Senator Clary talked a lot about immigration as a big issue, and of course a lot of the Herald just last week had a big, the editor had highlighted some immigration. That's a big issue. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. You know, I wanted to think about, you talked about yourself as an as a businessman so much, Dick. We didn't have a chance to really highlight what has happened to Elliott Beach Rentals from 1959. It's turned into quite a bit more than just beach rentals.
I'll give my son a lot of credit for that because he's taken that company to levels that I could only dream about.
Right.
So I'll give my oldest son, Rick, a lot of credit for that. He's done a great job. Let me just, if I could take 15 seconds on immigration.
Yeah.
South Carolina is a state of least resistance to illegal immigrants. The governor can, by executive order, we passed a resolution last year asking the governor to use his executive order that he controls his cabinet in DSS to not allow illegal aliens to have access to DSS services and others, because we've become the state of least resistance. We just pour it out, and we have too many legal residents that need that assistance. But so far, we haven't been able to get the governor to release that or make that executive order release.
Ocean Drive City Council, Horry County Council, the State House, the State Senate. If you hadn't run for office the first time way back then, Dick, what do you think you'd be doing full-time now?
I probably would be involved in some kind of community work, because we've been involved all of our life in various service activities, and the Lions Club and the Grand Strand Water and Sewer Authority at one point in time, back in this Airport Commission, and I would have occupied my time in some public service way. And the Scripture teaches us to whom much is given, much is required. And I've been so fortunate and so lucky in business still. I just have a guilty complex. And I just need to return some of God's graces to me, and public service is an outlet, and I would find a way to do that.
Those are great words, Dick. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Senator Dick Elliott coming up next. His middle initials should have been P.S. Think about that. Public service, everything he talked about. Did you catch him using the word we when talking about himself? Did you catch him using the word we? He represents so many folks in this large 100-plus mile district. Think about that. Down in Horry, going up through Marion, through Dillon, into Marlboro, almost touching Chesterfield County, a very large territory, but 4 separate communities that he'd served: that Ocean Drive Beach City Council, Horry County Council, the State House, and then the State Senate. One of 7 children, having 3 of his own. You heard him talk about almost 5 decades of marriage to his wife, Ann. A lot has to happen over time, and the expansion in this area. We didn't even get to talk to him about co-owning a golf course and the other exciting aspects of business life there. Wanted to get into that. You'll have to catch him. Give him a call, 249-1449. That's 249-1449, or send him an email at de@scsenate.org.